The laboratory was silent on that winter night, save for the constant hum of the magnetic resonance equipment. Dr. Ethan Mitchell meticulously adjusted the parameters of the experiment that could revolutionize our understanding of human consciousness. At 35, he was already a leading figure in cognitive neuroscience, renowned for his unyielding skepticism and unwavering dedication to the scientific method. The walls of the lab were adorned with his achievements: diplomas from Harvard, articles published in prestigious journals, and research awards. Each framed certificate stood as a testament to his devotion to objective, measurable science. On that particular night, something felt off. The air seemed heavier, charged with a peculiar energy that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Ethan dismissed the sensation, chalking it up to the exhaustion from weeks of intense research. His current project focused on brainwave patterns during altered states of consciousness, a subject he approached with his usual scientific rigor, dismissing any interpretation that bordered on mysticism. As he adjusted the electrodes on the EEG machine, an unexpected short circuit caused an electrical surge. The last thing Ethan remembered was a flash of bluish light and the sensation of being pulled out of his body. What transpired in the following moments would forever alter his understanding of reality. During what doctors later classified as a near-death experience, Ethan encountered something his rational mind would struggle to comprehend for months to come. He found himself floating above his unconscious body, observing with crystalline clarity the paramedics who arrived to aid him. More than that, he felt connected to an immense web of consciousness, as though every particle of the universe was interwoven in a cosmic dance of energy and information. When he regained consciousness 3 days later, Ethan was no longer the same. His eyes, once focused solely on the material world, now seemed to perceive beyond mere appearances. Colors became more vibrant, sensations more intense, and a new form of perception began to emerge, as if a dormant sensory organ had awakened within his consciousness. Doctors could find no physical explanation for the changes he was experiencing. Neurological tests came back normal, save for unusual activity in the region of the pineal gland, a small structure at the center of the brain that Descartes once referred to as the seat of the soul. To conventional medicine, these were merely anomalous data points with no clinical significance. To Ethan, however, it marked the beginning of a journey that would lead him to question everything he thought he knew about the nature of consciousness and reality. In the weeks that followed, he began to notice subtle patterns that had previously gone unnoticed. Premonitions began to manifest in his dreams, and a heightened sensitivity to the emotions of others developed. As a scientist, his first instinct was to methodically document each experience, seeking rational explanations for the phenomena he was encountering. But the deeper he delved, the more he realized he was venturing into a realm where conventional science offered no satisfactory answers. It was during one of his investigations that he stumbled upon ancient references to the third eye, a concept present in various spiritual traditions that described precisely what he was experiencing. The age-old descriptions of clairvoyance, expanded perception and connection to subtle dimensions of reality, now seemed less fantastical and more like attempts to explain a natural human capacity that had been forgotten or suppressed. In his personal notes, Ethan began drawing parallels between his newfound insights and the latest discoveries in quantum physics. The notion that the observer's consciousness influences the observed reality, once merely a theoretical curiosity to him, now took on a profound experiential dimension. His mind, steeped in scientific orthodoxy, wrestled to reconcile these newfound perceptions with his academic understanding. The turning point came during an ordinary afternoon in his laboratory, when Ethan experienced a crystal-clear vision of an accident that would befall his sister. The precision with which the details unfolded in his mind left him deeply unsettled. When he called to warn her, he discovered she had just narrowly avoided the exact scenario he had foreseen. There was no longer any room for denial. Something fundamental had shifted in his way of perceiving and interacting with reality. It was in this moment of profound intellectual and spiritual unrest that the name Anaya entered his life. A colleague from the university casually mentioned this spiritual guide who worked with ancient techniques for activating the pineal gland. In another time, Ethan would have dismissed such information as irrelevant. But now, something within him resonated, with a deeper truth that his rational mind still resisted accepting. The decision to seek out Anaya was not an easy one. It meant admitting that there were dimensions of reality that lay beyond the scientific paradigm on which he had built his entire career. But the experiences of the past few months had sown a seed of transformation that could no longer be ignored. Ethan was on the verge of embarking on a journey that would not only alter his understanding of the universe, but also unveil long-guarded secrets about the true potential of human consciousness. His first encounter with Anaya took place in a small study center on the outskirts of the city, far removed from the sterile, controlled environment of the laboratory where Ethan had spent most of his professional life. The place radiated a different kind of energy, not the sort that could be measured by his scientific instruments, but something he now perceived on a more subtle level of his awareness. Anaya was not what he had expected. Instead of the stereotypical, mystical figure his mind had conjured, he found a woman of serene presence and penetrating gaze, dressed simply and in a contemporary style. Her eyes, however, carried a depth that immediately intrigued him. It was as if she could see through the layers of skepticism and resistance he still clung to. "You arrived earlier than we expected," were her first words, even before Ethan could introduce himself. The remark caught him off guard, not only because it was true that he had arrived 20 minutes early, but also because of the way she said it, as if she were referring to something far deeper than a mere meeting time. In the hours that followed, Anaya began to unfold for Ethan a map of consciousness that extended far beyond his neuroscientific models. She spoke with the precision of someone who was fluent in both the language of science and the mysteries of the spirit. Her explanations about the pineal gland and the third eye wove together ancient wisdom with the latest discoveries in quantum physics and neurobiology. "What you call an accident," she explained, "was in fact a preordained awakening. The electrical energy that surged through your body acted as a catalyst, activating potentials that were already latent within your pineal gland. It was no coincidence. You were ready for this transformation." Ethan listened with a mix of fascination and resistance. His scientific mind still sought to categorize and analyze every piece of information, but something deeper within him recognized the truth in Anaya's words. She accurately described experiences he had been having since the accident, without him ever mentioning them. The visions, the expanded sensations, the heightened sensitivity to subtle energies. "The pineal gland," Anaya continued, "is far more than a mere endocrine gland. The ancients called it the seat of the soul for a reason. It is an interdimensional gateway capable of tuning into frequencies of consciousness that transcend our ordinary physical reality." She explained how ancestral traditions from various cultures had developed specific techniques to activate and cultivate the capacities of the third eye. From the yogis of the Himalayas to the shamans of the Americas, this knowledge had been preserved and passed down through initiatory lineages. "What you are experiencing," she said, "is merely the beginning of awakening. Your scientific background is a blessing. You possess the ability to build bridges between ancient wisdom and the modern understanding of consciousness. But first, you must be willing to expand your paradigms." During that initial encounter, Anaya guided Ethan through a simple meditation exercise focused on the third eye region. The sensations he experienced defied any rational explanation, vibrant colors dancing in his inner vision, waves of energy coursing through his body, and a sense of expansion that seemed to transcend physical boundaries. "What you are feeling," she explained, "is the initial activation of the higher chakras, particularly the Ajna chakra, known as the third eye. It's as though we're cleaning a dusty window. The more you practice, the clearer your multidimensional vision becomes." At the end of their meeting, Anaya handed Ethan an ancient Sanskrit text, along with its translation. "These are teachings on the nature of consciousness that have been preserved for thousands of years. Study them with the mind of a scientist, but allow your heart to absorb the wisdom they hold as well." As Ethan left the center that night, his mind was brimming with new possibilities. Anaya's explanations about the pineal gland and the third I had created a fascinating bridge between scientific knowledge and spiritual wisdom. More than that, they provided a framework for understanding the extraordinary experiences he was undergoing. In the days that followed, he began to implement the practices Anaya had taught him, specific breathing exercises, meditations focused on the pineal gland, and techniques to clear the energetic blockages that hindered the full activation of the third eye. Each practice seemed to unlock new doors of perception, expanding his awareness in ways that challenged his previous understanding of reality. The ensuing months marked a profound transformation in Ethan's life. Under Anaya's guidance, he delved into ancient practices for activating the third eye, blending them with his scientific understanding of the brain and consciousness. The process was not linear. There were days of extraordinary insights followed by periods of doubt and resistance. Anaya had explained that the activation of the third eye followed a specific pattern of awakening. "It's like waking up an atrophied muscle," she would say. "First comes the sensitization, then the recognition of subtle signs, and finally the ability to consciously direct that energy." The practices began before dawn, when the pineal gland was naturally more receptive. Ethan learned specific breathing, techniques that altered his brain chemistry, preparing his nervous system for expanded states of consciousness. Anaya taught him about the importance of diet, particularly focusing on foods that aided in decalcifying the pineal gland. During an especially intense session, Ethan experienced his first clear vision through the third eye. It was no longer just vague sensations or intuitions. He literally saw through the layers of physical reality. The experience was so profound that his body trembled for hours afterward, as his nervous system adjusted to this new frequency of perception. "What you are experiencing," Anaya explained, "is the activation of dormant codes within your DNA. The ancients referred to this as divine remembrance. It is as though every cell in your body is awakening to a potential that has always been present, yet dormant." The initiation process was not merely about developing extraordinary abilities. It was a profound journey of self-discovery and transformation. Each step forward in the activation of the third eye unveiled deeper layers of understanding about the nature of reality and consciousness. Anaya introduced Ethan to ancient texts that detailed the stages of awakening the third eye. Many of these writings contained insights that aligned seamlessly with recent discoveries in quantum physics and neuroscience. It was as if the ancient masters, through expanded consciousness, had accessed knowledge that modern science is only beginning to grasp. "The third eye," she explained, "is not merely an organ of perception. It is a gateway to higher dimensions of reality. When fully activated, it allows access to the quantum field, where all information and possibilities exist simultaneously." The practices grew progressively more advanced. Ethan learned to consciously manipulate vital energy, directing it to activate different aspects of the third eye. Each exercise was a deeper dive into the mystery of consciousness, unveiling layers of reality that his formerly scientific mind would have deemed impossible. One of the most significant moments came during an advanced meditation practice. Ethan experienced an expansion of awareness so profound that he could perceive the fundamental interconnectedness of all existence. He saw how every thought and intention created ripples in the quantum field, subtly yet measurably influencing reality. "What you are discovering," said Anaya, "is that consciousness is not confined to the brain. The third eye is an interface that allows access to the universal field of consciousness, the same field that quantum physicists describe in their most advanced equations." As his initiation progressed, Ethan began to document his experiences with a unique scientific rigor. His notebooks blended quantitative data with qualitative observations about expanded states of consciousness. It was a bridge being built between two worlds that had long remained separate. The expansion of consciousness through the third eye was not merely a process of light and revelations. As Anaya had forewarned, the deeper Ethan delved into his studies and practices, the more he encountered shadowy aspects not only within his own psyche, but also in the world around him. During an especially intense meditation session, Ethan began to perceive unsettling energy patterns woven throughout modern society. His expanded vision revealed how certain artificial frequencies and social structures appeared deliberately designed to suppress the natural activation of the third eye in individuals. "What you are seeing," Anaya explained when he shared his observations, "is the veil that has kept humanity in a state of limited consciousness. It is no coincidence that the pineal gland is one of the most calcified organs in the modern human." Ethan's discoveries began to draw unwelcome attention. In his university laboratory, once close colleagues began to drift away. Research projects were mysteriously cancelled, and he noticed suspicious glances in the academic hallways. One night, while analyzing data on his computer, Ethan experienced a clear vision through his third eye, a group of individuals discussing ways to disrupt his research. The vision was so vivid that he could hear every word spoken in a room he had never physically entered. Days later, upon arriving at his lab, he found evidence that someone had rummaged through his files. There were no signs of forced entry, but his awakened third eye allowed him to perceive the energetic residue left behind by the intruders. It was then that he realized he had become the target of forces that sought to keep certain knowledge from coming to light. Amid the chaos, Ethan discovered he was not alone on his journey. Through his heightened awareness, he began to recognize others who, like him, had awakened to more subtle realities. It was as though an invisible network connected awakened minds across the globe. Anaya revealed that she was part of an ancient lineage of guardians of the knowledge of the third eye. For millennia, this wisdom had been preserved and passed down in secrecy, awaiting the time when humanity would be ready for a collective awakening. "What is happening to you," she explained, "is part of a greater process. We are entering a period of profound transformation in human consciousness. The third eye is awakening in more and more people, despite attempts to suppress it." Through his advanced practices, Ethan learned to attune himself to this network of expanded awareness. It was an extraordinary experience, being able to access knowledge and insights that transcended the limitations of linear space-time. As his abilities grew, Ethan began to unravel a complex tapestry that spanned centuries. Through visions of the third eye, he accessed ancestral memories that revealed how knowledge of the pineal gland had been systematically suppressed throughout history. Ancient documents, safeguarded in secret libraries, spoke of an organization operating in the shadows to keep humanity disconnected from its higher potentials. This same organization, he discovered, still operated in the present day, using modern technologies and power structures to maintain control over collective consciousness. Despite opposing forces, Ethan realized that a greater movement was underway. His research, blending scientific data with spiritual insights, began to circulate within alternative knowledge networks. People around the world reported similar experiences of third eye awakening. Anaya revealed that ancient prophetic texts had foretold this moment, an era when the veil between dimensions would grow thinner, allowing an increasing number of people to awaken to their multidimensional capabilities. At the height of his discoveries, Ethan found himself facing a crucial choice. The organization seeking to suppress this knowledge offered him a tempting proposition: to abandon his research in exchange for academic prestige and unlimited resources for other projects. On the other hand, the path of awakening demanded the courage to confront the forces resisting the expansion of human consciousness. It was a choice between personal security and a commitment to a greater truth. During a night of deep meditation, Ethan realized that his journey had never been solely about personal discovery. He was part of a greater movement transforming human consciousness. His choice was not just for himself, but for all those who would come after. With this understanding, he decided to publicly share his discoveries, meticulously documenting the bridge between science and spirituality that he had built. He knew he would face resistance, but he also knew that the time for collective awakening had arrived. The third eye, he realized, was not merely a portal to higher dimensions. It was a key to the evolution of human consciousness. And now, more than ever, this evolution had become not only possible but essential for the future of humanity.